Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to HQ 76.5 2020, a rainbow roundtable discussion on finding pride in the stacks. I'm Professor Bono Algado from the University of the Philippines School of Library and Information Studies. This is part of the UP Pride 2020 celebration with the theme Sama-sama Pantay-Pantay. Today with me is fellow alumni and students of UPSLIS forming this wonderful and beautiful rainbow roundtable as we talk about how do we actually find pride not only in but also through the stacks. As I mentioned, I'm Bono, he, him, his. SLIS faculty since 2012. I'm currently on study leave as I pursue my PhD here at University of California, Irvine. I am a cisgender gay man, a proud one at that. So I just wanted to first start off by saying happy Pride. Today, I am joined by three amazing individuals and I will be giving the space para sila na ang magpakilala sa sarili nila. I guess we'll start with Jen. Hi, Jen. Jen, you're muted. Of course, this is gonna happen. Hi, sige, Jen.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Pride. My name is Freeman Joy Cruz. You can call me Jang, and that's Miss or her. I graduated for bachelor class of 2005, master class of 2018. I'm currently working in the College of Science Library, UP Diliman, and I'm a transgender. So Bonus actually told me to divulge my relationship status. So it's still single, unfortunately.
Someone is up for grabs. So let's proceed. Hi, thanks Jen for joining us ngayong for this roundtable discussion.
Thank you, Bono.
Salamat din. Miko, pakilala tayo.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and fellow SLIS peeps. My name is Miko. I was in SLIS since 20, 2011, and I'm currently working as a data engineer for an international IT consulting company. Prior to that, I worked as in the data and information science field. I served as a director and digital product manager. And I am currently single as well, but
Thanks. Sorry, na-realize ko. Finors ko ba kayo? I-divulge ang inyong relationship status. No, it was just for fun. You can have not to. Okay, so I will also explain, Miko, salamat for joining us kahit may sinat ka so that I would be the one to explain kung bakit siya merong thingy-majig on sa forehead ni Miko. So maraming salamat for joining us. And last but not the least, Daryl, who's joining us all the way from Amsterdam or Hague? Where are you? I forget.
Hi everyone, good morning. Afternoon na pala. Good morning from The Hague. Good afternoon in the Philippines. I am Daryl. I'm SLIS bachelor's. I graduated 2009, and my master's I graduated 2019. Officially by 2019, or I graduated last year, but I marched this year. I marched online this year. Yeah. So I've worked as a school librarian for 10 years, but currently I am taking up an Erasmus program in children's literature, media, and culture under the University of Glasgow, but currently I am here in The Hague, the Netherlands. I identify as a cisgender gay person. I'm comfortable using the pronouns him and his, so don't call me she or her, please. And relationship status, I'm single. but dating people. Ayan.
Salamat, Daryl. Wow, dating in Europe, ang big. So thank you again for joining us. So as I mentioned, since I joined SLIS as a full-time faculty back in 2015, every year na nagsa-celebrate ng UP Pride ng October, nagsa-set up kami ng the series of talks or lectures or activities or projects, which we usually call HQ 76.5. So this year's it's 76.5-2020. Para din sa mga hindi librarian, katulad ko, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng HQ 76.5? Just as a general introduction. Now I'll revert to Daryl as one of our librarians in this panel.
Wala, hindi ako expert, sir. But off the top of my head, HQ 76.5, it refers to gay rights. Of course, it's not just gay as in gay people, but more umbrella term queer rights and the liberation movements behind it. So yun lang, to put it easily, briefly, it's all about gay rights and the liberation movement in general.
Right. So yes, so that's the reason why we took on this particular moniker, this particular title, because we believe na there's like a really long thread in history between gay liberation or LGBTQ liberation and the queer movement in general, and in its connection with librarianship and information science as well. So like, for example, we have pioneering activists for the community, such as like Barbara Gittings, Audre Lorde, who are librarians, but were at the forefront of the fight for equality, inclusivity, and diversity, not only within the library profession, but also the community at large. So along those particular tradition, we uphold their values and their activism in holding this particular series every year. Sa pag-celebrate ng UP Pride every October. And this is the first time we're doing what we call a rainbow roundtable, which is actually inspired by the American Library Association. Fun fact, it's actually the American Library Association. It's the mga librarians ang nagkaroon ng official first professional parang group of LGBT people. So before pa magkaroon ng parang Association of Gay Doctors or Association of Gay Lawyers, nauna na yung Association of LGBT Librarians back in the 70s. So again, this is like the same set of paradigms and tradition that we're following. This is the extent that I'm going to talk, because I really want to provide space to the three of you in really exploring our theme for this rainbow roundtable, which is how do we find pride in and out of the stacks. And here we define stacks not only as like libraries or archives, but also as stacks as in like programming and IT, as like what Miko represents in this particular group of people. So I guess I'll first start off by asking, how is it like to be an LGBTQ++ in the LIS field and profession? And I guess the best way to start siguro is to talk about our experiences dito sa bakura natin sa UP SLIS. How is it to hold our identities and be part of the SLIS community? Anyone can jump in and start.
I think ako na mag-start. Parang ako yung pinakamatanda.
Go, sige lang.
Yeah, 2001 yung student number ko kasi. So, well, hindi naman siya traumatic, but actually very accepting ang UPSLIS to, I won't say homosexual, but to us in general. So kasi parang hindi sila nagle-limit in terms ng accepting students. So of course, I know that it's based on academic, pero the environment itself is very safe, I would say. And even yung mga students as well, they're so nice. So wala naman ako naging problema. And my experience sa UP in general, kasi member din ako ng UP Babaylan, it's really a nice community. Yung space na naging belong ako at that time. So yeah.
How about for you, Daryl? Because you got also similar to Jeng, you also got your bachelor's and master's. So medyo matagal-tagal ka din sa SLAS. How was it in general in terms of, yeah?
I've also never felt any kind of discrimination sa SLIS. I felt that it's a very open community. It's a very appreciating community. Siguro it comes with the, I don't know, I don't want to generalize, but because we're also in UP, so every perspective is welcome and everyone is welcomed in UP. So I guess it also reflects how SLIS is, that you are welcome whoever you are. So you come as you are.
Miko, ikaw, kamusta? How I guess not was, because how is your experience with?
Thank you, Sir Bono, for the question. Similar with Joyce and Daryl's experiences, very accepting yung UPSLIS, and I guess it really comes with the environment. UP itself is very open-minded. Yeah, so far wala naman akong na-experience na negative towards how I express my sexuality. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, I identify as queer. Thank you.
So would you say, because ako even as a gay man, I still had to navigate managing classrooms, right? So, parang, for example, the notion of articulating and taking note of students' pronouns, it wasn't a thing. At least it wasn't in my vocabulary until siguro mga, around 2015, 2016. And I think we're trying to parang normalize it within sa classrooms. Right now, I believe most of our faculties sa start ng class would always be asking students kung ano yung preferred pronouns nila, and we'll be taking note of it. I think I remember one time we even had discussions regarding I think it was recognition pati graduation and what to put on the screen sa pag-flash. So parang sabi na, no, whatever they want. It's like recognition natin yan, di ba? Sure, baka may rules yung university sa commencement, but for us within SLS, we make the decisions on how to acknowledge and provide space for our students as well. I mean, I think it's not perfect. I think we still have a long way to go. As a gay man within the faculty, parang I constant yung reminders, and I still don't get it right all the time, diba? So
that's actually a very interesting point, because back then, 2005, of course, the ideologies were still very much different. So yung movement nagsisimula pa lang siya, and right now yun nga, you get to identify yourself with the pronoun that you prefer. Tapos siguro before this, this certain microaggressions na people would call you as, they would refer you as a babae just because you're a gay person. The normal Filipino gay paradigm na pag bakla ka, automatically babae ka. I appreciate it that SLIS is doing this certain step, that you identify with a pronoun that you're comfortable with.
Kaya pala, Bono, nung graduation, ayun ang pinaka-highlight ka, Dean Kate asked me kung ano yung gusto kong gamitin. Kasi ko, wow, nagulat ako. Kasi nga, parang, it's not common. Normally, it's just the name yung nilalagay.
Ano din parang advantage din siguro ng kolehiyo na katulad natin na maliit to a certain extent, na parang we generally would know what's going on, or we would want to know what's going on with every single student. Again, it's not perfect. We're still learning along the ways. Ako sometimes feeling ko responsibilidad ko siyang lahat. So parang no, I don't parang represent or talk for everyone, but I'll try my best to provide those space. And I guess for my experiences, it's been great. Like the faculty has been very supportive and very inclusive. I remember at one time may usapan kami sa faculty. Tinanong ako ni ni Ma'am Rhea pati ni Dean Kate noon. Sabi niya, Bono, how do I talk to my kids about like gay people? So parang hindi ko din wait, taka lang. But it's those conversations I think that happens that we're having that probably hindi nga nangyayari before. So, but I think I'm just gonna piggyback on sinabi ni Daryl about microaggressions. So if we see like our school kind of like a safe space that we're trying to perfect. But have after graduating and you're entering your wonderful careers, have you ever experienced these microaggressions in the library profession or the IT profession or the archiving world? And how did you manage these micro? What are these micro? Parang paano nagmanifest ng mga microaggressions and how did you like handle it in general?
It's actually quite uncomfortable for me to talk about it, but then sige, pag-usapan na natin because I used to work for two Catholic schools as a school librarian. Most of the time, the microaggressions would come from, of course, cisgender male employees, and normally, they would try to normalize you na dapat hindi ka ganyan, dapat hindi ka ganito. Ang dami nilang sinasabi that they don't know it affects you. It affects back then I would assert myself na no, I'm not I won't conform to what straight people would want me to do kasi this is who I am. I am gay. I think that's the issue in a Filipino society, at least based from my personal experience na if you're gay, they would expect you to be to be uh to be girly, to be sissy, to be what I want to say is can't I just be gay as I am, just how I am, na hindi ko kailangan mag-conform to any expectation from the society. Na just because I'm gay, I'm expected to be a girl. Just because I'm gay, I'm expected to be sissy. So these microaggressions, patuloy pa rin siyang binabaka, patuloy pa rin siyang nilalabanan. Hindi siya one time, big time na you tell them to shut up and they will shut up. So it's a change in ideologies.
And of course, just to be clear, which we all agree on, there's nothing like our expressions and our identities run the gamut, right? Like you can be a gay male and be feminine or be masculine or whatever expression you might be, and they're all valid.
Sorry for that.
Right.
Yeah, of
No,
course,
it's perfectly
everyone's free
fine.
to. Yeah. Everyone's free to be.
Right. But on follow up ko din, Daryl, is like you probably expected that this would be the space that ganito yung mangyayari in an all boys school, but what made you still make that decision na parang sige, I'm gonna enter this space and probably really run the risk of having this experience?
I think it's also because of course the gay rights is also it involves intersectionality. So after graduation you want a more stable job, of course, and only private school, at least during my time, it's only during that time that only private schools would offer at least a good initial pay. So siguro yun din eh, the intersectionality of course, hindi mo naman pwedeng ihiwalay yung gay rights sa class rights. Pero in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, unahin mo yung ano mo, yung basic needs mo, which is food more than security. So I guess yun. And then from the inside, try to change it na lang.
Right.
Slowly.
And we'll go back to how can we actually make changes in these spaces? Miko, you wanted to say something about these forms of microaggressions. I'll be very interested, like in the field, in the profession that you are, kasi in librarianship, parang like statistically, it's still primarily dominantly female. So which I would assume is a bit different in your particular field and profession, Miko. So what were your experiences?
Yes, thank you, Sir Bono and Darrell, for those insights. So unlike Darrell's experience, mine's a bit different. I work in a mostly heteronormative cis male profession. However, from experience, it's actually the fellow LGBTQA people who are not as welcoming as the hetero co-workers. In fact, most of, or I guess it has something to do with how they view LGBTQ people. So there's a bit of hierarchy na if you're a cis hetero man, eto ka. And then if you are um, uh, a lesbian or a man looking non-straight woman, you would be under that um, uh, ladder na next ka sa hierarchy nila. So, from experience, it's the fellow LGBTQ colleagues in the past, uh, they are the ones who I wasn't as comfortable working with. I've experienced I've experienced being treated as, why are you so soft? Are you this or that? And we are confused about how you express yourself and act like um, act more manly. Medyo mas ganon. And yes, I guess yon from experience, mas welcoming ang hetero cis men and then the women and then least welcoming ang fellow LGBTQs. Actually, mas ang nagtatanong ng pronouns ko ay female coworkers than fellow LGBTQ um, peeps.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that experience. But at the same time, it's like parang hindi din ako mabibigla, right? Like this year, the UP Pride is like sama-sama, pantay-pantay. Pero like decades since the movement has started, we're still grappling with those issues na parang may internal, like I agree with you, there's still like a perceived hierarchy, there's still a perceived valuation. Going back to what Daryl was mentioning earlier as well, parang may mga ganong dynamics pa rin, even within the community. So yeah, it's a bit tricky, and we're still trying our best to contend with it as well. Tapos dagdagan mo pa nga ng intersectionality pa of class, for example, diba? So parang if if my perception kasi my what do you call this, my not prestige, what's the word that I'm looking for, my privilege, may pribilehiyo pa rin yung mayamang bakla or mayamang lesbiana or mayamang trans, right, as compared to say other people as well. So there's these set of issues na marami pa rin pinanggagalingan ng discrimination at marami pa rin tayong kailangan gawin. I guess I'm going to segue to a much broader parang picture, which is the profession at large. Jen, kamusta naman? I know you've been active attending conferences locally and abroad. So for example, with PLAI or with kung ano-ano pa yung mga library associations natin. Kamusta yung experience mo in the like profession at large? Do you think that, how is it?
So far dito sa UP libraries, very welcoming naman. So I don't see any problem so far. But of course, makikita mo yung numbers eh. So ilan lang talaga yung nasa LGBTQ na members ng our librarian. So, and sa pag-attend naman ng medyo intimidating kasi international. Kasi it's more of collaboration and what we can do at the table. Like dating dito sa atin, parang they expect parang alam mo yun, basta may something na not you're tolerated. Parang ganun lang. It's not totally accepting. Parang ganun. So, in terms of experiences na, meron pa rin ako na-encounter na ilan-ilan na parang physically, I look like a girl, pero they still insist to call me sir. Parang hello? Parang gusto ko na, parang minsan nakaka-frustrate na parang parang do you need to explain to everyone na ganun ka na nga, parang nag-effort ka na nga to look like like you or, diba, like a girl, pero they still insist kasi nakita nila na siguro manly yung pangalan. Alam mo yun? Parang binibase nila doon tapos nakalagay male. So, pag nag-fill up ka ng mga forms, lalagay nila Mr. Parang automatic na yung name tag mo may nakalagay na parang gano'n. So, unlike sa international, it's different. Ayun lang, so far, gano'n yung na-experience ko. Na sana parang ma-change naman kahit pa paano. Kaya nagulat ako yung S-list, yung meron ng ganong pronoun, refresh. Even sa work, they don't acknowledge yung mga ganon. If you're a male, you're a male. Doon ka lang sa CR ng lalaki, parang ganon. You cannot parang use female restroom, parang ganon. And you can only do specific things according sa policy. Good thing, ang UP Diliman is like very, very welcoming. So,
yun nga kasi even yung mga maliliit na bagay na yon, like sa name tags, name badges sa conference, hindi naman siya ganun kalaking bagay. It's not that difficult to actually do it, right? It's like, it's just let people do whatever they want to do with their name badge. Pero, so bigger picture in relation to what you mentioned, pati yung sinabi ni Daryl, like whether, nabanggit mo kakanti yung numbers natin within like the UP library system or within the profession at large. Ako, I've always felt na movements would gather momentum and be successful kung merong konsepto ng intergenerational alliance. So I've always wondered, growing up or as you enter these particular professions, were there like parang leaders in the library field or the IT field who were out and proud that you were able to look up to and say, oh yeah, it's possible. It's possible for me to be successful in this profession and also take hold of my identity as well. Were there anyone, because medyo baguhan din ako dito sa local context, it's like, I don't know if there's any, but I've always been intrigued.
She's not. I had this coworker way back 2017, I guess. I think she's a director of another group, and she was very very successful, and everyone looks up to her, including the entire organization. I guess siya yung mako-consider kong mas role model. She's not directly in the IT field but interconnected. She's in the advertising and marketing field. So yun, I guess in the professional world, as you mentioned earlier, Sir Bono, you really you really have to um, climb the ladder to be at least recognized and be respected. And once I did that myself, medyo nagkaroon din ng konting recognition with regards to how I express my sexuality.
Kasi it makes a huge difference, no, Miko, to see someone parang my model, my aspiration, my possibility. Na parang okay, I can succeed in this profession and at the same time, occupy this particular space. So I'm very glad and happy that you found one. Kayo in the library field, in the library profession, alam ko maraming mga people who are not out, right? Like or no, hindi tayo mga out ng mga tao. But then we know that like statistically individuals would be existing in this particular profession. But are there people? I mean, okay, so yeah, I guess a faculty. Like, so I'm currently there, and then I'm pretty sure there were previous faculty members who were some of which were out in like certain ways and certain levels. Pero I guess going back to the question, are there any LGBT elders in our profession that we can look up to and talk to and aspire to be?
So far, wala pa ako na-encounter. Because probably I'm looking for yung same as me, transgender. So which is very difficult to find in a specific profession. So there are like gay men or like, right? So mostly for transgender, I can't, wala pa akong makikita. Actually, although in general na lang, na inspiration, UP itself is already inspiration kasi ang dami ng gagaling. So, you don't need to look anywhere. Faculties ang gagaling na nila. So, and even students are striving for their best. So, kailangan na inspiration mo to like work hard.
So yun nga, so parang we're given na wala, parang we're I guess we're to a certain extent we're paving the way accordingly. We're taking those steps. So we're in our half mark. It's 30 minutes. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back because we also need to fix the tech. So I'm gonna cut it, Nathan, here. All right, so welcome back to the second part. Medyo gising na kami. Actually, midnight na sa California, tapos alas 7 ng umaga ngayon kay Daryl. So, pero ngayon medyo may energy na kami ng slight. We're gonna bring this up. Nawala lang si Miko, pero at one point, pabalik ulit si Miko. Yung huling point natin kanina, pinag-usapan natin yung value ng pagkakaroon ng models or like LGBTQI elders within our profession. So, nabanggit ni Jeng na medyo wala tayo in the profession at large, or walang at least out and proud. And there's a number of reasons, right? Parang hindi naman natin like we can't blame people for not coming out because of like a number of reasons, both personal. But I've always wondered if the profession in general is a space safe enough for people to actually come out, pending personal issues, of course. Have you kasi di ba parang coming out is not a solitary one-time thing. Like we constantly do it every single time, like every space, every venue. Do you find it like difficult doing it over and over again in the profession? Like every time you go to a conference, do you flat out say, "Hey, I'm gay"? But I don't know. What are your experiences, Daryl, for example?
Yeah, I would agree. I would have to agree with Jeng. Na wala. I've never seen at least the seniors LGBT leaders. Walang none that I know of na out and proud. At least now I was actually happy, Sir Bono, to be honest, when I saw you in the faculty, that finally someone is, I've been represented finally in the faculty. And it matters because like students would want to look up to someone in the profession, not just in terms of being a professional, but also in terms of lifestyle. Because you're navigating your undergraduate life, and how do you navigate it without a role model, without like a guide? Sino ba yung pwede mag-guide sa akin? Fortunately, I've had mentors, but they are cisgender females mostly because of the nature of the profession. Yun nga, female-dominated profession. And of course, I would go back to intersectionality again. Na it's, as you have mentioned, hindi ganun kadaling mag-out, either because of personal reasons or because dahil siguro rin yung social-cultural aspect ng Pilipinas, di ba? It's still very conservative Catholic. Kagaya nga nung sabi ni Jen kanina, LGBT people are tolerated, but we are not really accepted. And paano mo malalaman na accepted ka? When you see it in the policies in your country. Bakit yung SOGI bill, for example, ang tagal-tagal natin siyang ipasa. So, you see this, ayun, di ba, interconnected silang lahat eh, na you see this microaggressions pa rin. People would say na, tanggap naman yung mga bakla sa Pilipinas. But then, when you look at the policies, asan yung pagtanggap dito? Yung recently, yung pronouncement ni Pope John Paul, ni Pope Francis, for example, that LGBT people deserve same-sex civil union. And we are just talking about civil union here, not marriage. But if you look at the comments sa mga tao sa social media, yun hindi siya tugma. People would say na, tanggap naman yung mga bakla sa Pilipinas, pero here comes Pope Francis saying, same-sex civil union is okay kasi it is just love after all. It is just love after all. But you'll see the comments of the people na, ayun, ang daming negative comments coming from. And what's surprising was, you will see your Facebook friends, yes, nakikita ko yung mga comments nyo, librarian friends, they're commenting against the pronouncement of Pope Francis, diba? Yun you see these microaggressions within the community.
Right.
So
Actually, those are really good points and painful realities as well. Na parang yung sinasabi nila is one thing, pero sabi mo nga, ang ganda ng example, pagdating sa polisiya, hindi diba? Or pagdating din sa, pag naging mas intimate o mas malapit na sa kanila yung issue, biglang lumalabas talaga where they stand.
Yes.
Jen, you were talking earlier off screen about your story of what you needed to do to get promoted. Ano nangyari?
Yes. Yung time na kasi, before ako maging librarian, so I worked for a call center before. So, medyo inaccept naman nila lahat eh. That's how they hire. Kasi based on skills. Kaso nga lang, in terms of pag mag-akit ka na sa ladder, parang they have like certain requirements na I'm shocked kasi I thought it was performance-based. But all of a sudden, they asked me if I can cut my hair. And I can like wear certain clothes only. And I'm like, okay po. And the next day, I resigned.
No?
The next day, I resigned na agad. And then,
good reason.
I explored myself.
Right.
Kaya na-explore ko ang UP Diliman that time kasi nag-check ako ng iba't ibang company and luckily nakita ko na may certain policies ang Diliman about anti-discrimination, parang ganon, equality, yung mga keywords na hinahanap ko na I will feel safe sa isang workplace. Parang ganun. So that's why I tried parang from scratch. Kasi nga dahil call center experience ko, as in wala akong library experience. So nag-contractual, from scratch, zero. Parang ganun. So ang hirap nung ganong transition kasi akala mo you're already there. Tapos all of a sudden, pag alam mo yun, basta nano ka na biglang, oh my God, start na naman ako from zero. So it's really difficult na yung pangangatawanan mo talaga yung pagiging ikaw. So it's hard.
But for both of thank you for sharing that. And for both of your experiences, yun talaga yun, yung akala ng ibang tao, polisiya lang yan. Pero it really goes such a long way na, that one thing that they're gonna do or not gonna do means so much for us. Na parang we're not asking a lot for that. We're just asking for, to be respected, to be treated equally in these particular spaces. And I appreciate your kind words, Daryl. I mean, on top of my head, there's like one gay faculty before who left the university. As far as I know, he was probably out during his time, but he's definitely out now.
Pero if he was out then.
Remember.
Hindi ba?
Kilala ko na. Oh, yeah.
Out na siya ngayon, so I guess okay lang na, diba? Pero, sorry, pinipigil ko yung sarili ko. Very lucky and privileged to, be given this responsibility, but at the same time, it's like, alam ko yung mga first few years ko, I was very cognizant about that role and responsibility, which I've never in a million years imagined I'll take on that responsibility. Diba? So lahat na lang ng LGBTQ related thesis papatak sa akin. So pag ko na titingnan ng faculty, ay LGBT, okay bono. So parang okay na lang lahat. Which is also good because then students are starting to do that research. Pero kahit sa SLS may pushback pa rin. Like, I remember that one time it was Pride Week, and then my small group of students that might push back in terms of like the activities that we were doing. So I think it was my second year. Sabi ko, ay lagay tayo ng flag din sa SLAS banner. So every time na papasok yung mga estudyante, they can know that the school itself is like a safe space. And of course, I understand and I respect people's set of beliefs and specifically religious beliefs. Pero my point being is that hindi pa rin siya, it's still a very difficult space to maneuver. Kahit ako, tinatansya ko pa rin paminsan.
I think there's also the danger of tokenism na just because may rainbow flag yung institution, it doesn't exactly mean na LGBT friendly siya talaga.
Right. Right.
Hindi siya totally LGBT friendly.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, they use this. There's also this danger na yun nga
Yep.
wherever there's a rainbow, people would advertise na, oh, we're LGBT friendly.
Right.
But then going back again, you will still have these microaggressions. You don't
Right.
still feel totally safe in these
Right.
spaces. So yun. Siguro yun nga, sabi ko kay Sir Jonathan kanina off the record, we need to have this uncomfortable discussions.
Right.
We need to talk about this para people would know na we deserve we deserve our space. We deserve
Right.
to be heard. We deserve to yun ano lang, and we are just who we are. Hindi namin
Right. Right.
kailangang mag-out all the time in a conference.
Right.
Lang ulit-ulitin na bakla po ako ganyan.
Right.
And you know, people
Right.
would normally when I gave talk sa probinsya, people would normally ask na, single ka ba, sir? Kasi meron dito mga babaeng single, ganyan na parang, no. And you don't have to, hindi ko kailangang ulit-ulitin na bakla po ako, ganyan. Hindi ko kailangan ng babae, yan. So yun, we need to have these uncomfortable discussions na people would easily understand.
Right.
And also, it is not just for non-LGBT people. More actually, must for the LGBT people to know na, you have to acknowledge these microaggressions.
Yeah.
You have to know that this joke is not okay because it normalizes discrimination. So we need to stand up and speak up.
And yeah, that I can't say it any better than that. And to Jeng's point earlier, parang, sometimes all we want to do is to be able to do our job, right? And be evaluated based on our performance. Yun lang naman yung sa workspace, diba? Yun lang naman yung hinihingi natin. So.
Meron pa isa, Sir Bono. Yung recent na di ba, parang last year, yung issue ng CR. That's for us naman transgender kasi.
Right.
So for you guys, wala naman kayong problema doon. Right. But it was a big deal for everyone na parang saan ba talaga dapat? Alam mo yung gano'n? Parang even I think may certain offices sa Dilima na nag-open talaga ng parang how do you call that? Open. Diba he, she, CR, parang gano'n.
Right. Oo. Ganun din kasi alam mo naman ng lahat may bago tayong building na kino-construct. So yan yung isa sa mga first priority ko. Yung nakita ko yung divisions ng CRs, ng restaurants. Like, kailangan natin mag-provide ng isang space. So nag-decide may allocated space tayo accordingly for people to inclusive bathrooms basically. Anyone can use it. Parang one-on-one lang yung gamit. So, pero inclusive siya. So, regardless of how you identify, you can
PWD,
use that space.
Parang gano'n.
Oo. Pero medyo ayaw ko lang. Ang hindi lang din kasi, yes. Kasi kung inclusive, lahat diba? Pati accessibility, so on and so forth. Magde-dedicate tayo. I will, I will fight for this particular advocacy. Kailangan siya.
Yes, maganda yon.
Right.
Maganda yun.
But for me, going back to this CR situation, it was a big thing for me coming here sa Europe. Kasi yung mga universities dito, walang division. At least yung mga napuntahan ko universities, wala silang divisions. As in, it's just a toilet for everyone. So, pasok ka lang, you'll see girls there, you'll see LGBT people there inside the toilet So wala siyang hard division na these are just for males and these are just for females. And ang point ko is it was very important for me na just to be there na yung palang toilet concept, it's a very personal issue, but at the same time it's a very societal issue that would make a big impact talaga.
Right. Kasi nga to Jeng's point, like we don't experience those difficulties as cisgender men, right? And ako din, so like I wouldn't know it until like I've been exposed to it. People have told me about it. I noticed. I think specifically I noticed kasi nagkaroon ako ng advisee who's also trans. And I was like, I was always wondered, and then I realized that the person just opts not to go to the bathroom. And that's just so parang, so maghapon ka sa UP at tapos sa main library, di ba? Kahit wala naman sinasabing polisiya na hindi pwede, parang sila na mismo yung nagne-negotiate sa sarili nila. And I realized that how painful that is. So, ang pangit na nga ng mga toilet natin, hindi pa sila inclusive. So, parang,
Or baka naman yun yung reason. Baka yun yung reason kaya hindi nagto-toilet.
Kasi pangit talaga siya. hindi pala siya gender related. Pangit lang po talaga yung toilet. Kaya hindi siya ginagamit. All right. We're going to that third point. So how can we're touching on this now. So within the library spaces, how can we then promote and uphold, pride, diversity, and inclusivity in and through our stacks? One of the key things especially when we're talking about libraries, it's about collections, right? Like how inclusive and diverse our collections are. Alam ko, Jen, you were looking at basic statistics of collections, LGBTQ related collections main libraries or library. How is it so far?
Yes, actually yung question about dun sa HQ76.5, when I search iLive, parang there are only 8 titles available sa main library. And yung sa part naman ng sa akin, sa transgender, I only saw like 42 titles available. So hindi ko naman kailangan basahin lahat yon actually. Kaso nga lang parang kung iisipin mo, mas marami pa rin yung collection for international literature than Philippine literature, focusing on like LGBTQ in the Philippines talaga. So yung actual experiences ng mga LGBTQ natin. So kasi it's hard to relate sometimes yung mga international literature. Kasi yung mismong settings are different, 'di ba? But when it comes to, actually sa thesis ka nga lang makakita ng mga actual data ng talagang nangyayari. Right. Kung if the thesis is about LGBTQ, but yung actual publication, as in parang iilan lang talaga sila.
Right. Yeah. I also wonder yung sa number na binanggit mo, Jen, kung ilan doon yung nasa yung LGBT library collection sa women's, I keep on forgetting the numbers of the departments. Basta yung library collection na sinamala ni Eric Manalastas, ni Professor Eric Manalastas. So there's like several shelves in UP that focuses on our communities and the literature of our particular communities. Maliit pa, I think it's definitely there's a long way to go. Daryl, how's the diversity of collection in all boys school that you were a part of? Is there enough LGBT representation in the stacks?
Wala. None that I can recall. Actually, I like yung point din ni Jeng, yung where she said, yes, there are Western LGBT literature, but we need more Filipino literature. For me, for example, specifically, we need more Filipino children's literature na dwelling on the LGBT experience. Right now, meron ng mga konting effort like yung bonggang-bonggang Batang Becky, mga dalawa ang daddy ni Billy. But still, they are still few and far in between. Tapos the experience, it's still very Manila-centric. So again, going back to intersectionality, they are still very Manila-centric and very middle-class experience.
Right.
So paano naman yung, 'di ba, yung mga batang bakla na mahirap? Paano ma-reflect yung
Right.
yung situation nila? Paano sila ma-represent?
Right.
So it matters na dapat hindi lang magko-collect ka nga sa library, pero sabi nga ni Jen, they are still very Western. The experience is still very Western, very
Yeah.
very European, very
Right.
American European centric. Na yung context, the social cultural context is very, very different. Na if you compare to the Philippines, yes, I can identify. For example, growing up, I read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe. It's a very good book. I would recommend it. Kasi hindi siya shove in your throat about LGBT, but more of coming of age story.
Right.
And sort of coming out story din, na getting to know oneself. Pero yun nga, the representation is still very, actually hindi siya American, mas Latin American siya. Siguro kaya medyo closer yung culture, pero still hindi siya the Asian Filipino experience.
Right.
So we need more representation. We need pag-collect ng, hindi lang sa pag-collect ng libro, but more sa production din. So we have to see yung cycle ng publication ng books, na hindi lang dapat siya, nakakollect na ako, again, tokenism, nakakollect na ako, okay na to, may LGBT collection na ako, okay na to. But we have to look in the system na gaano ba karami yung naproproduce, for example, per year, gaano ka critical yung pag-approach nila sa situation na to. Dahil lang ba may LGBT character dun sa libro, okay na yon? Or gaano ka critical nila tinitingnan yung issue ng LGBTQIA+ na spectrum. So ganun, dapat gaano ka critical yung literature. Hindi porket merong sidekick na LGBT, okay na yan. Itong librong to may sidekick naman to na LGBT, okay na to. Dapat more, alam mo yun, more representation, more taking up space.
I think it's a very strong and valid point. Yeah, but it's hard to collect if there's nothing to collect in the first place. Diba? So at plus yung sabi mo nga, yung we also have to be critical of the things that we collect, of what representations we provide. On the other end of the spectrum, yung sinabi mo naman din, parang okay, so even if there are these materials, even if there are these children's book, LGBT themed children's book, is it easy to actually include them in collections of, say, public libraries or like school libraries? I mean, because that's at the top of my head, yun din yung concern ko, na parang, okay, sige, publish ako ng libro, but would the librarians actually have the power to include it in their collections, or will they end up, going toe to toe with administration? And how would that look like? I don't know.
Yeah, there's still a big issue of institutional censorship. Right. So,
Jen,
like
kayo
school admin.
Right. Jen, kayo, kahit nasa science library kayo, meron pa rin naman kayong mga, I don't know, non-science collections, like fiction, or I don't. Wala.
Wala masyado.
Right.
But yung in terms of collection development, kasi the good thing about is yung mismong collection development ng UP Libraries, it's more on talagang collaboration na between faculty and the library. So, ang ganda na ng relationship ngayon in terms ng collection development. So, mas involved na sila compared before. And depende kasi sa kanila eh. So, for example, sa Center for Women's Studies, ang dami nilang collection about this. And MASCOM also have this. So, yung mga titles na, yung 42 titles and 8 titles kanina. So, normally, it's from their collection. So, it's good na yung talagang very open sila sa ganitong mga quality titles na talagang actually, although mag-improve ba ito in the near future, but still, it's a good start, right? Na meron na may existing na siya. So, it's a work in progress na lang siguro.
So besides from collection development, collection management, ano pa yung pwede natin magawa within our libraries or our archives or our IT systems to make it, more inclusive or for people to take pride in and through it? Ano pa kaya? Ano pa kaya pwedeng gawin? Ako, I've always been one of my undergraduate advisees. He made his thesis on building, looking at the feasibility of starting like a LGBTQ community archives for the university, for UP. So the idea there is that paano natin masisigurado na yung mga naratibo ng ating komunidad ay parte ng history ng universidad. Diba? Kasi for example, if you go to the university archives, you'll see like, great people. You'll see like professors, you'll see faculty members, you'll see student orgs. But I always wondered how, the narratives of people, because like, LGBTQ people have been in the university since the very beginning, right? It's like professors have always, I wonder how much it is reflected there in our archives. And I always say na parang it's an active decision to collect those stories and to collect those materials. Na parang you can't expect na bigla ka nilang you can't expect na magiging diverse bigla yung collection mo. It's like it's an active decision that the archives have to do. Kayo, ano pa yung pwede natin gawin? I guess one of the other things is recruitment, right? It's like recruiting more people. I don't know.
Number of personnel, number of representation.
Right. I'd be very
another thing
interested. Yeah, go ahead. Derek.
Yeah, another thing I'm thinking is yung libraries, di ba nagbabago na rin yung dynamics niya? Instead of bigger focus on collections, for example, they're starting to become community spaces, community engagement hubs. At least dito sa Europe, libraries are starting to change to become more as community centers, more places where people could engage, could discuss. So what I'm thinking is this could be places of, hangouts of gay people, and it could be a democratic space for everybody. The library could be a democratic space for everybody where everyone are free to express who they are. I think starting from that fact na yung hindi ka takot as a Filipino person, for example, hindi ka takot pumasok ng library just because madidiscriminate ka kasi bakla ka.
Right.
So I think that's very important that we change the concept of librarianship, the ideology behind librarianship, library information science. Na it's a public space, it's a public democratic space,
right,
where it's not just all about reading, which is also of course important too,
yeah,
but it's also a place where you could engage with the community, with the
right,
society at large. It's a democratic
yeah,
space for everyone.
yeah. I like that
Yeah.
idea.
Siguro very
Mm.
very big siya kasi hindi siya
Mm-mm.
as concrete as having a collection, for example. Kasi collection, di ba? May data ka, may number ka. Kasi yung concept of space, it's a very abstract idea. But
Yeah,
for LGBTQIA plus person to take up space, it's very
right,
telling. It's a big thing for us, for queer people.
right.
Yeah, in terms of space naman, I agree na kailangan talagang mas maganda talaga ang library na may space for collaboration, discussion, ganyan. Actually, most of the libraries now are improving their space. They're allotting more space for that purpose. So at least we're on the right track. For example, ang UP main library ngayon is like may bagong construction ng building nila. So a lot of spaces there are for that. Even us sa CS Libraries, marami kami ng spaces for, may 24/7 discussion area kami for students. And although it's for UP students only, but still, they are open to do anything they want. Parang, alam mo yun, parang, I think, nakakasabay tayo in our own way. Based on our yung kakayahan ng mga budget natin. Kasi
Right.
it's nice to like think na we can do this and that. At the end of the day, wala ka namang budget. Alam mo yung parang
Right.
Yes.
yung ayun ang
Yeah.
pinaka-challenge talaga ng libraries yung resources, which is we don't have much.
Right.
Actually, little nga little. Hello, little budget. Padagdag
Tama.
po.
I mean,
Yeah.
but it's those are good points, and I think the dadagdag ko lang is but like if we go back to our earlier discussion, nabanggit niyo pareho na we don't have LGBTQ leaders within our profession, which then I think is the challenge for all of us, me as a faculty member and like the two of you and a handful of other people in the profession. Kung wala, edi tayo na pala yun. So that's why I'm very happy to have this provide this space for us, visibility within the profession na parang we exist and we sabi nga nila, diba, we're here and we're queer and we're here to stay. And not only for us but also to provide the space for the next generation of LIS professionals to continue the work that we're doing as well. Which brings me to my last question. Medyo cheesy ng konti, but you could answer it as brief as you can. I said here, what is like one book that opened you up to pride? Like a book that you would recommend that every single library of any kind should have. Pwede na natin i-expand kasi sabi nyo nga, like, the library contains so many things beyond books as well. But what is that one thing that when you read it, when you saw it, when you listened to it, you realize like what pride means, at least for you? Ang bigat pala ng question. Kala ko casualan lang yung huling question ko.
Ang bigat, oo nga. Ako kasi, Sir Bono, pwede nakakalimutan. Wala naman kasi akong specific book, but I'm more tend in terms ng yung mismong about LGBTQ, I prefer yung local literatures. I'm not into like movies. Ano mo yan, yung parang it's more relevant for me kasi parang I can relate somehow. Alam mo yun, parang not necessary actually UP itself publishes certain titles na about LGBTQ. Actually, yung Center for Women's Studies in particular, nagpa-publish siya ng mga ganitong mga titles. So why not like add that collection into your collection instead of like the cliche Western titles. Alam mo yun? Parang, my God, hindi ka naman makarelate.
Tama.
Somehow.
Tama.
Love your own.
Tama. So yeah, so it connects to yung point nga ni Daryl kanina. Parang we need to produce more so that the library can have and our spaces can have the capability to choose and be critical of the stuff that we're going to collect. Ikaw, Daryl, is there any particular object, item, book, film?
Ako, yun nga, I've mentioned it earlier, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe. I like it very much kasi it's more coming of age story, more coming out. It's by Eduardo Saenz. Still very Western. It's still very, hindi pala Western, sorry, very American experience. Growing up nung sa college, I remember yung Queer as Folk series, if you know that series. Pero yun, still very, very Western pa rin siya. Yun yung very Western kasi American series siya. And it's very heteronormative. So yun din yung danger doon. It's still very heteronormative. It's not very all-inclusive. Pero that was like, what, 10, 15 years ago. So right now, nagbabago naman yung spectrum. So more inclusivity. Tapos, siguro, ang gusto ko locally is yung Maximo Oliveros. If you're familiar with that. So the movie Pagdadalaga ni Maximo Oliveros. that's the time na nakita ko, oh, finally merong
Right.
representation yung batang bakla sa Pilipinas. But still, it's still the trope. It's still the gay child trope
Right.
in the Philippines na alam mo yung kailangan lagi kang may patunayan para
Right.
tanggapin ka ng society mo.
Right.
So, ayun, meron kang representations, but at the same time, meron ka pa ring, you still have to use this critical gendered lens sa pagbasa nitong mga
Right.
contents na to para for it to be more inclusive. Ayun, saka gusto ko na yung sabi ni Jang na dapat there should be more local representation kasi iba talaga yung experience natin sa experience ng mga naisulat na ng Europa at ng America. So yun, more representation in terms of printing, in terms of publication, in terms of collection, in terms of leadership in the LS field.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree on both fronts. Siguro ang last sharing ko na lang, which touches on a number of things you've mentioned. I think one of my most memorable conference experience. This was at the PLY conference in 2000. I forgot 2016, 15. I was invited to deliver a keynote. I'm not sure kung nandun kayo. If Jeng, were you there by any chance?
I don't remember. Saan yan, sir?
Saan ba to ginawa? I forgot kung saan din siya ginawa. But basically, I was talking about pride. I was talking about inclusivity and diverse spaces in our libraries. And then I remember, I mean, I'm an out gay man, but I never do it publicly. Like if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you, but I'm not gonna. I don't go around saying it to people, right? Pero there's just like it was the Apply conference. There was like around 1,000 to 1,200 librarians in this big hall, and then there's this huge screen behind me, and then my first slide is like the words "I'm gay," and I was like, oh, this is me coming out to like 1,200 librarians, which has never been done before. So I was bigger. Si Ma'am Rhea siya yung chair ng conference, so in-invite niya ako to do the keynote. And I remember talking about it. I don't remember anything that happened during that presentation. I just remember saying things. At one point, I asked like fellow LGBTQ people in the profession to stand up and to be recognized and to be clapped. And I think I
Yes,
remember.
nandun ako.
Nandun ka? Tumayo ka?
20
Tumayo ako.
2018 yan.
Nasa harapan ako nun eh.
Yeah, me too.
Oo,
2018
parang,
yata yan, sir.
2018,
oo.
oo.
Parang binilang ko yun, parang wala pa tayong isang dosena or something yung tumayo. And then it was such a moving experience because everyone was like clapping. It's like, oh, this is nice. This is super nice, right? But again, hindi natin alam to what extent talaga yung kanilang acceptance nga or kung tolerance lang yun. But I remember going down after my speech, after my keynote, and I didn't know. And then si Ma'am, our new university librarian, si Ma'am LV was there. And then Ma'am LV hugged me, and I was just crying for like 2 minutes because I had that feeling. I never felt that feeling before. I was like, oh, this, I guess. And ako pa, hindi din ako licensed librarian, diba? So parang, anong ginagawa ko sa space nito? But my point being is that, this is me saying thank you to both of you and also to Miko for living your true authentic selves and for having these difficult conversations and for existing in the spaces that you exist in the LIS profession. Na parang I applaud you because you really are paving the way for our brothers and sisters that will come after us, that they may have an easier time, that they may have a bigger space, that they may be heard better and louder as well in the succeeding generations. So it's never easy to be the first ones, but someone has to do it. So I'm very, very happy and super proud that you are one of those people that are leading the way. And hopefully we can continue these conversations as we continue the fight within UP-SLIS, within UP, and within the profession at large as well. So muli, maraming salamat, Daryl, Jeng, Miko. Also, I would also recognize Nathan, who's also a co-faculty member and also a proudly queer folk as well. Say hi, Nathan.
Hello.
There. Oh, there. Thanks, Nathan. So Right. So this is us. I guess let's greet everyone again. Happy Pride. One, two,
Happy
three.
Pride.
Happy
Happy
Pride.
Pride.
Happy Pride.
So happy Pride for sa UP, as we join you in our as we join everyone in celebrating this year's UP Pride 2020, Sama-sama, Pantay-Pantay. This is Professor Bono Algado from the University of the Philippines, proudly, from the School of Library and Information Studies. This is us hoping that we continue finding pride in and through the stacks. Have a good day. Bye.